Hello and welcome to the Fatboss Guide to Durumu, the forgotten 10-man normal in the Throne of Thunder.
Hello, and this encounter is ridiculously good.
It's so cool.
This is the best boss in here so far.
Apart from Bird Boss.
Bird Boss was cool, this is much cooler.
I don't know, I haven't got extra action buttons on this boss.
True. And there's no
There's no tortoises.
Yeah,
but either way, this fight is absolutely amazing. It really, really is. It's amazing. You'll see.
For this encounter, you want to bring 2 tanks, 2 to 3 healers. We actually tried 3 healers for a while and then dropped to 2, and that's what got us a kill. But that's only because we were failing.
Yeah.
So if you want to do a really quick kill, use 2 healers. If you're feeling very confident, then use 3. And as for DPS, just whatever. Doesn't really matter what DPS you bring. Now, the boss itself has sort of like 3 phases, like a normal phase, and then it has a light spectrum phase, and then it has a disintegration beam phase. And before we talk about the 2 other phases, we're just going to talk about the normal phase.
Yeah, where the boss is just hitting the tanks and doing not much more.
Now, there's a couple of individual abilities that we're going to talk about here. There's an ability called Hard Stare, and every time the boss casts this, it will apply 2 debuffs to the tank. One called Serious Wound, which is a stacking debuff that is a 10% less healing received debuff. And also Arterial Cut, which is a 40k dot that ticks every single second until you're fully healed.
And that stacks.
And that stacks. And the Hard Stare itself does hurt when this is applied, so you will be quite low when you get the Arterial Cut. Healers, you just need a bitch heal and make sure that this stack is removed from the tanks as soon as possible. As for when to taunt, it kind of depends on when you're about to go into a light spectrum phase, because you don't really want to tank a light spectrum phase right at the start on high stacks. So you want to have a tank swap just before then. Otherwise, you want to tank around 5 to 6 stacks.
Now, the boss also has 3 eyes kind of hanging about just in the air. They're non-targetable, but they each do an ability. One of these is called Mind's Eye. Now, this will create like a shockwave style knockback, and if you are knocked back, you will be knocked back. This is like a knockback, and it will knock you into the water. And as we know, as from most of the GTA games, if you go in water, you die instantly.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, so you do actually die instantly if you do go in this water.
So you need to make sure that you avoid it.
It's really weird though. It's like a big long line, and
yeah, it's not really a traditional shockwave because, like, how a traditional shockwave works is that it's a cone. This is like a cone, but it also has a kind of a circle area within the boss's hitbox as well. So it's very important that when this does come in, that you not only avoid it from the line that it sticks out of the boss, but you also avoid it from underneath the boss's hitbox. And you do that by being at like maximum melee range. And the boss's hitbox is absolutely huge, so you don't need to worry about that.
Now, the other eye is a Praising Eye. Now, this does a cast called Lingering Gaze, and this is at 2 random players, and this will just be like, you'll be told when it's coming in on you by DBM or Bigwids either way, and this will create a little void pool underneath you, and it ticks very hard, and it slows. It's very important with these void pools for later on in the fight, because you need to do a lot of movement towards the center of the room, that you throw them the fuck away from the boss. It's very, very important.
Yeah, the further away you can put these, the better it is. And the last eye is Hungry Eye. Now, really, this eye doesn't really kick into play until a lot later into the fight. However, it's still very important that you know about it. This eye's kind of weird. It will target a random player and stun them for a long time and will start draining their health. And when we mean draining its health, we mean draining its health. It heals the boss for a ridiculous amount. Tens of millions sometimes. Now, the longer it drains on the target, the more potent the heal will become. So people can interrupt the amount of healing that is going in on the boss by standing nearer the eye. You can rotate players. The longer you stand near the eye, the more healing you'll receive.
And the stun should remain on the initial target. But yeah, you do get a debuff for every time like you are getting drained on. That it tells you should really not try and go over 3, I would say. But the lower you can do it, the better. And of course, there is actually a beam animation. It's actually bullshit. It's actually whoever's closer to the eye.
Yeah, the beam's a bit of a throw-off. It doesn't work like the exhale on Zolok or anything like that. It's literally who's standing nearest to the eye, not the beam.
Yeah, so you got to be very, very careful with that, and it can come in at really horrible points as well. So communication is key if you're getting stunned and drained on, because you're going to die incredibly quickly if other mechanics are destroying you.
Once you've got grips of all them, you'll then be looking at heading into the light spectrum phase. Now, 3 beams will appear on 3 random players. There's a red, blue and yellow beam. At this point when they spawn, you'll also briefly see indications in the room of where ads are about to spawn. You'll see 3 little red glowy, orby, shadowy, smoky things that appear in the room, and 1 blue one. and then moments later they'll disappear and the beams will become active. Now we're going to talk about the beams individually first.
Now the person marked with the blue beam, this beam will follow the target around wherever they are. It will follow you around, and the big cone that comes along with it as well. Now this does ticking damage split between as many members within, and this will reveal the blue ad if you face it at the direction of the blue ad is in. If you do that, it's a wipe.
Yeah.
You do not want to reveal this blue ad.
Yeah, when the blue ad is first, when you can first see it, when it's showing where it is, the person who has the blue beam needs to make sure that they just move as far, well, they just make sure that they're not facing towards that ad. And then as soon as that has happened, they can just stand still for the rest of the light spectrum phase. The most important thing with this blue person is just make sure don't face the beam at the fucking blue ad. And that's it. However, it is important because of the ticking damage that you do also have one other person in there, because it does split the damage. Now the red beam, this will also follow the target wherever they move, and this will also deal ticking damage, and the damage is split between however many people are inside it. Now the red beam will reveal the red ads, and the whole point of this phase is to kill 3 red ads. However, if you do reveal an ad and then accidentally unreveal it, the red ad will explode your raid for like 300k damage. It does
so much damage very quickly.
It doesn't actually kill the ad either, which is really bad, but it'll just do a load of damage to your raid. You can't ever happen. So when you do move to reveal these ads, do it very efficiently. And you can do this by standing near to the boss. The nearer you're standing to the boss, the quicker the beam will move around the room.
Now with the yellow beam, at first it is on an actual target, but as soon as the beam becomes like active, it will then completely stop following the target and then just start slowly rotating around the room, just at a slow, steady pace.
Yeah, it'll go counterclockwise usually, but sometimes it goes clockwise as well. It's completely random. And really, you just want your tanks to stand in this. Both tanks should be stood in this yellow beam. If other people want to stand in it as well, then yeah, so be it, but they don't actually need to.
Because, of course, the damage that it deals is split between the amount of people that are in it.
Now, one thing to note when you are in these beams, you also get a debuff that increases the amount of damage that you take while you're in them. And this stack lasts permanently throughout the fight. However, on normal mode, it's not really a big deal. If these phases are taking really long for you, then you're going to have a problem later on in the fight. If you end up having 3 light spectrum phases or 4, then you're going to have problems on the 3rd or the 4th one.
The boss will probably enrage.
Well, the enrage is 10 minutes.
Yeah, so maybe not.
The chances are that you're going to start taking ridiculous amount of damage. So to maximize this phase, when you do get the moment where you can see the 3 red ads very, very briefly, what we did was just throw down raid markers in their exact locations, and then the person who gets the red beam can literally just move to them straight away. And if you are running through beams, if all the beams run through each other, it doesn't matter. All it does is split the damage, so you don't need to worry about running through other beams. If anything, it helps.
Yeah.
So,
well, you don't want to spend too long in like with beams overlapping or anything like that, because it's probably not achieving anything anyway. But yeah, it's fine. It's fine if you do it for not a very, very long time. So once you have killed the 3 Crimson Fog people, then
it will go back to the normal phase.
It'll go back to the normal phase, and then after the boss has kind of savvied around a little bit, he will then start casting Disintegration Beam.
Now, as soon as the boss casts this, he'll start facing the entrance, and he'll have a Seathun-looking beam. Now, as much to your dismay, the best idea is to stand in this beam.
Yeah,
because initially it doesn't do any damage.
He's like precasting.
Yeah,
like DBM even says precast, and I was like, "What the hell are you on about?"
He's charging my laser.
He is actually literally charging his laser.
So what you want to do initially is just stack up in front of him, and then you'll see either on the left or the right hand side a load of squiggles.
Yeah, like a squiggly. They look like kind of snakes. It looks like a snake trap of a hunter or something similar like that, but they're all purple and they extend for quite a while.
As soon as you see them, you then want to stack up on that side. Moments later, the whole room will then suddenly start to become full of like this purple shit that does a huge amount of ticking damage.
Now, once it has like completely made full circle, you'll realise that the place that you're standing in, because you stacked on the right side and you're quite close to where the first bit initially spawned. Oh wait guys, it's not going here. That's because you went to the right place, well done. At this point, the boss suddenly goes, right, it's time to start turning. The boss then starts turning, but as he starts turning, a maze is revealed, Lawrence. A maze. That's amazing. So as you go around, you preferably you want to stay as close as you possibly can to the boss in terms of where the maze is, but you just got to find the gaps.
Yeah, the maze does change. It's different every single pull. I mean, I'm not actually sure. We're not actually sure how many different maze possibilities there are, but there appears to be a lot. And usually there seems to be 2 routes that you can take. There appears to be one in melee range and one at range. So it's vital that obviously the tanks take the one in melee range, because as soon as the maze is over, you need to pick up the boss. Otherwise, he's just going to whack everyone.
And to be honest, even the ranged, everyone should probably take the melee range one. It's the minimal amount of movement, and it's very, very clear where to go, because when I go into this phase, I tell people don't panic, because it is so easy to panic. You've got this giant beam coming towards you, and it hasn't, like, the maze hasn't revealed itself just yet, and you're like, we're all gonna die, and then you just run into the shadow and then die. So whereas everyone else, who just chilled out, don't worry, and then just go when it's open. It won't just suddenly stop. There are no dead ends in this maze. However, while you are in melee range, sometimes the maze can be a little bit in melee range, so you have to come out a little bit and then go back in. There's like little segmenty bits, but you'll work that out as you go along. But this is really why you didn't want to put those Peasing Eyes pulls in melee range, because otherwise you have to run across them, as you can see through quite a lot of our footage. But we've had to do that a couple of times.
And every time we have had to do that, you have to use raid cooldowns, and that
ridiculous.
Is what happens to you. And also during this phase, there's also sort of like random 30k damage spikes on people.
Yeah.
This is from like random shit. You don't need to worry about that. And that's all it is in this phase. Just avoid the beam and try and do the maze without dying, and nuke the boss. And then once you've pretty much executed a full circle, that's when the beam will stop. And that's when the normal phase will start again. And then it's just all about rinse and repeat. However, like we did say, the Hungry Eye, the Life Steal Eye, that does come a little bit later into play, and you will start having that during the light spectrum phases.
Yeah.
You should never ever get it during a Disintegration Beam phase, because that would just be so bullshit.
That would be horrible.
But it does happen in the light spectrum phase, and when it does happen, you just need to communicate and heal up as quick as you possibly can.
But that's pretty much it for this boss. But what else do you want? There's a maze. There's like light beamy things, and it's amazing.
Fucking ridiculous.
It's a really cool
It's my
fight.
favourite fight in here so far.
Yeah, so far, definitely. So thank you guys for watching. If this guide did help you out, then please give us a thumbs up, and we will catch you next time.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.